I'm Jane Applegath. This is the Epic Vision Zone, where bold ideas meet extraordinary leaders. What if your vision wasn't wishful thinking, but a blueprint for who you are always meant to become? And what if one courageous decision could completely rewrite the trajectory of your life and destiny? Debbi Sluys is a coach, speaker, trainer, and visionary entrepreneur helping people unlock their hidden potential by showing them how to step boldly into a life of purpose, gratitude, and intention. She is also the author of Declare It: How to Turn Your Personal Power Back On, built around a powerful idea by Jack Canfield that one intentional word has the ability to direct your energy, influence your decisions, and transform the course of your life. After spending over 30 years leading in childcare, coaching teams, and building transformational community experiences, Debbi experienced a life-changing wake-up call that pushed her to follow her deeper purpose. A passion for vision boards evolved into a global movement through her Dare to Declare Academy, empowering entrepreneurs, leaders, and dreamers to turn possibility into reality. Combining neuroscience, personal development, faith, and transformational coaching, Debbi empowers clients to declare the future they truly desire. She has been featured on Success TV with Jack Canfield, the High Performing Coach podcast, and sharing the stage with best-selling author and spiritual leader Gabby Bernstein. Debbi is living proof that anything becomes possible when you stop waiting for permission and start trusting your vision. Welcome, Debbi. Thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you. I've got goosebumps listening to my own bio. It's just so lovely to have that reflected back, and when you are witness to the full manifestation that has been occurring in the last number of years. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're very welcome. And it's so interesting, Debbi, because every time I do it, almost every time, people have the same reaction. Because that's, it's interesting. That's the compassion that we don't share with ourselves. We don't realize all the hurdles and the accomplishments and the achievements and the good things that have happened until, like you said, it's read back to you and you're like, I'm pretty special. At least that's how I feel when mine gets read back to me. I'm like, darn girl, you've done a lot. And kudos to you too, Debbi, because you have as well. So that's great. I love it. Well, tell us, you're very welcome. You spent 30 years in a successful career before making a dramatic shift. What finally gave you the courage to trust your deeper calling?
So there was a dramatic event, and it was more of a wake-up call physically. So I ended up having what was like a mini stroke at work where half my face fell. And so I lost my speech. I was in a meeting. It started actually as I just lost my thoughts, and I wasn't able to, or my speech, I wasn't able to actually, what I was thinking, articulate it in a meeting. And then my next meeting, I actually had my face fall. I lost my speech. It was very scary. And I ended up with a little spot on my brain. And it was due to the stress. And it was definitely a wake up call for me to say, okay, what else might there be out there for me? Now I had already been doing vision boarding for, so that we haven't really talked about that. That's my company. Dare to Declare is all centered around vision boarding. And I had been doing that already for 2 years. And so I started as an idea. What is something that's hope-filled, that's visionary, that can support women? I knew that it was work that I really wanted to do for myself, creating a vision, setting goals, inspiring other women. But that wake-up call was, all right, are you going to step now full-time into this new encore chapter of your life? And that combined with, there was 2 questions. I was at a conference, and this woman that was speaking, I was also speaking there, but she spoke ahead of me, and she said, what's the price you're paying for not following your dream? Mm-hmm. And then she asked this question, what's the price those around you are following or are paying for you not following your dream? And that was, again, the second wake up call, but it wasn't pain, it was pleasure. It was like, okay, so the pain happened, like, what's the price I'm paying? But then the invitation was given to say, what's possible? And what are those around you paying for you not stepping fully into your dream? So those two
Right.
things, the physical wake up call and then the invitation to step into my dream, really supported me to let my board of directors know that yes, after 30 years running a multi-site, not-for-profit organization, I was ready to step fully into this coaching uh, business that I had started 2 years prior.
Yeah. That's interesting because they often say the universe will tap you or smack you, both in your case. Correct. Yeah. So exactly. And I've had so many individuals here on the Epic Vision Zone who have experienced something similar in the sense that it was physical, and then the awakening came after they gave themselves the permission, like we said in the intro, because that's really what it boils down to, is giving yourself the permission, because we're always looking at what other people might think, how they'll judge us, what might happen if we fail. It's always the negative. But act so proud of you for doing that, because the second wake up call was that woman saying, what are other people paying for that? And I see it as the people who you have found, who you have inspired to go on and do great things. Those were the people who were missing out on Debbi.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. And
absolutely.
even closer to home, my daughter now works for me full time. But uh, yeah, so even before that conference, one other nudge was my grandson had just been born, and he's now going to be 7. And I was in the hospital with my daughter. We were laying in the bed together, and just in the middle of the night, the little baby sounds
Oh.
beside us, and she says, "Mom, why don't you leave your job?" And I said, "Because I'm really scared. Like, I'm hanging on to that steady paycheck. That it's really scary as an entrepreneur to not have that guaranteed income, even though I know there's a ceiling to it and all those restrictions." So what's interesting is a year ago, my daughter was able to leave her full-time job and come and work for me now full-time. So
Mm.
I had told this story recently at a women's event, and she said, "Mom, do you realize that not only did you um, provide and step into your dream, but you now paved the way for me too as well. And I now have
Mm.
flexibility, and we get to work together full time."
How beautiful is that? Yeah, that's just full circle. I
That's
mean, because there's nothing like that, and bringing family into the fold, and especially you and your daughter. That just makes so much sense. So, well, congratulations. That's just gives me goosebumps, because it's so rewarding. And you've come so far in very little time. Seriously, I mean, that's not a lot of time. And now you've got your book, and you've got your conference that you're doing. So we'll get into that. But well, thank you for sharing that. I know it will inspire many people. Well, let's get into a little bit of the science now, because I'm a big fan, as you are. What is happening psychologically, emotionally, and neurologically when someone creates a vision board?
well, uh, there's a phrase there that says, "What fires together wires together."
Mm.
And so when you have a thought and you have the feeling, and when you combine that, and that's what happens when you have an image that you're becoming emotionally attached to, you've got the feeling that you remember, "Oh, I chose that image because I can imagine myself walking the streets of Italy, or I can imagine myself in this beautiful relationship, or I can imagine myself feeling the healthiest version of me. That's why I chose that image." You can feel it even within your body. Your body has a response to that, but it's also a conscious thought and your imagination. And so when it says what fires together, it actually creates new neural pathways within your brain. So we're understanding more and more about neuroplasticity, around neuroscience, and how the power of focus and having repeated focus in what it is that you actually desire and what you want actually changes the composition of your brain.
Right. Yes, it does. And the emotion kicks in when that happens, because if you, like you said, you picture yourself in that environment or with that career, whatever it might be, your emotions start to trigger, just as we watch a sad movie or we watch a happy movie. But you can do this with your vision board because, like you say, the brain doesn't know the difference. It creates our reality. So if you can imagine it with your, like you say, your vision board, then yes, you can create the reality and put yourself in that space, and all of that comes together. I love it. Yeah, the neuroscience is teaching us so much about the power of our mind and the brain and how it can work for us instead of against us, because it always goes to the reptilian. I call it the reptilian brain, which is to keep us secure and safe. And that's
Hmm.
just from our prehistoric life, but we don't have the monsters chasing us anymore. So, yeah, it's really, really powerful when you look into that. But thank you for that explanation. What do you think that keeps so many women then stuck between safety and the life that they want? Is it just the security, or is there more to that?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more complicated and layered, but it really begins with beliefs. And so those
Mm,
beliefs start from infancy, like the expectation that a little one, a little girl, like even when you're little, like maybe you're described as being pretty. You need to be pretty, or
mhm,
she's so pretty, or she's so sweet, or so you already start to get these labels. And I was listening to a podcast recently. I wish I could give credit to who it was, but they said that by the time we hit age 35, 95% of our behaviors are things that we've memorized. Like we're just walking
mhm,
and walking around on default. And 5% is an awareness. So I think as women, especially if we are a parent or, and then we've got multiple hats that we wear, you just get burdened with busyness and overwhelm. And so we put ourselves last. And
mm,
so we know that we have this responsibility. And so I think, those kinds of societal beliefs around women, but also what we take on ourselves as responsibility and just being the caregiver. We, yeah, certainly don't put ourselves and our dreams and what it is that we want. There's an equation which says courage plus risk equals confidence. So when we talk about this idea of safety, like risk doesn't feel very safe. And yet on the other side of that is confidence. So when women are like, I'm lacking in confidence, well, we might not be taking those risks unless, if a child's in harm's way, we'll definitely take the risk and just run out to traffic and grab the child. But it's when it's something for ourselves to take that risk, we might see, oh, it's too big of a financial risk. It's going to put my family in danger, or it's not at the approval of my family or my spouse, and so we just diminish ourselves. We don't take those risks. But the other side of taking a risk is confidence. So I think those are some of the things that as women we definitely need to change the narrative and the story and become more self-aware. Mhm.
mm. Oh, yes, absolutely. More self aware, positively. I mean, I think humans in general, but certainly women as well. Well, this is perfect segue into my next question, because there's a synergy in your process that includes neuroscience, as we've spoken a bit about, faith, and personal development, and the intentional living that you bring forward in your course. So how do these worlds complement one another in your work, and how does this help encourage, like you just said, women from moving out of that box that they've put themselves in?
Well, we have a framework that I use with all aspects of our business at Dare to Declare, and it's called Dream, Discover, Declare. And so I
Mm,
like to have things really simplified because when you're in crisis, I'm like, I can't read the book, listen to, to all this new information. I just need something that's real quick. So dream, discover, declare. So it's about giving yourself permission to dream. And, when we were little, if we had a safe childhood, we dreamed freely. Like I want to be this when I grow up, or I want to live here, but as we adult, I say that in quotes, we tend to diminish the dreaming, and certainly we know what our spouse wants, our children want, our employer wants, but when I ask women and men too, like, what do you want? I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. And
Yeah.
so getting really clear on what you want. And so I'll come back to this framework in a minute. But if you think about, if you were walking in, I just drove home from Toronto, and stopped at a coffee shop, like just to grab a coffee. And so you've got the big screen in front of you, right? And you've got to put in what you want. There's all these options. Now, if I didn't actually put what I want, I mean, just I'll probably end up with a black coffee, small black
Mm,
coffee. But no, I like to have my coffee with 2 milk. And so if you don't ask for it, you're not going to receive it. And that's the same thing
mm,
with the universe, and the way that we manifest is we need to be really clear. But we also need to dream, and means that we want to surround ourselves with other people that are dreaming big. So it's like this menu. You don't know even what is out there that you may desire, if you're not exposed to it. So being around other big dreamers, I do this often in exercise, like, what do you want? And then I love when I do it in a group, because I'll have somebody say, I want to have a house manager. And then inevitably someone's like, oh, I haven't even thought about that. You mean someone that could do my groceries and run all my errands and clean my house? And yeah, that's a thing. It's like, wow, like it wasn't even in
yeah.
their scope of experience or even being able to dream. So surrounding yourself with other people that are up to big things, that are also dreaming big, that are visionary. So dream, that's the first part. The next part is discover. And so that's where you might want to dig in deeper about, like, what is it that I want? But also, like I talked about the menu, like what is out there, but also discovering more things about yourself. Like, what's the reason why I haven't achieved these goals already?
Mm,
What are the stories? What are the beliefs? What are the thoughts that I'm thinking? What are the words that I'm speaking? Maybe you don't have
mm,
accountability. Maybe
right.
you're attracting what you don't want versus what you do want. And our speech is so important. We'll talk. I know we're going to talk about my book in a minute around the power of words. So discovering mostly about yourself, and what those beliefs are, like the work of Bob Proctor. He has like a little stick man, which shows, your conscious thoughts, your unconscious, subconscious thoughts, and how those inform ultimately our results. And so that's the discovery phase. And then the last part is declaring, which is also decision making. So
Mm,
deciding. And I think you put that in my bio too. We're one decision away from an entirely different life. So declaring doesn't have to be really loud and brash, and like, it can certainly even just be something, declaring it to yourself. But, science shows that simply by writing it down, pen to paper, not just typing it, but writing it down, you're 42% more likely for that goal to manifest. But when you
mm.
declare it to someone else that is as excited about your goals and your vision as you are, that probability goes up to 76%. So these are like studies that have been done to show that this stuff works. So dream, discover, declare.
Mm, I love that, and I love that it's simple, like you said. It's the dream, the very first one, like you have said, and I've come across many individuals like this. It's we haven't had the space to decide what we want as an adult because we get on the hamster wheel. We finish our degrees, we get in. I mean, in our generation, we go to work, we get the job, we have the children, we have the house, the mortgage, the car, then the kids go to and it just then when somebody says, "What do you want?" in later age, you're like, huh? Nobody's asked me that in 100 years, and it really is befuddling. I mean, it's still befuddling to many people because they're like, nobody's, since you're a child, like you said, we always dream when we're young. We're always dreaming that I mean, I used to think I was Peter Pan and that I could fly. I really thought I could fly. you know,
Wow, I love
yeah,
that.
I know it's one of my favorite, that and the Wizard of Oz. But it's the ability to tap back into that childlike creativity, and I love that because I think that's exactly what a lot of this does. Like, you and I had a chat prior to, and you were saying it's giving us permission to play, and
Mm-hmm.
play is what's missing in our lives. I mean, there's so much out there that that can bog us down. But then there's the awareness and say, no, I'm not going there. I'm going to stay here and I'm going to play, or I'm going to open myself up to what's possible. And I love the fact that you said that you've got other people that join in that might trigger something that you didn't think of, like a house manager. I was like, that's fantastic. I want one of those too. you know,
Yeah.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's great. It just feeds, and everybody starts to, the energy. I love it. The energy starts to go around, and then everybody starts to open up. You're like kids all of a sudden. So fantastic. Well, thank you for
And
sharing that. Huh?
a higher
Yeah.
frequency, like when I hear you speaking, I get, you get excited. And so
Yeah.
when we're at a low frequency, we're not going to be attracting, we're not going to be manifesting in the same way that when we're at the higher frequency. And like, you just look at that excitement that you had, that you can right away imagine, like, oh yeah, my
Yeah.
dry cleaning's over there, and this needs to be, the
Huh.
plants need to be watered, or whatever it is, that you can begin to imagine that. And
Yeah.
this is where then you adopt a new self-image. And so the
Mm.
other piece that I encourage people as they're working through this framework is it's all about who's the best version of me. And so most
Mm.
people think about a vision board as have, do, be. What do I want to have? Like the stuff I want to have. What do I need to do to have that stuff? And then maybe someday I'll be happy. And I dare to
Mm.
declare we flip that around. It's about the being, the self-image. Who do I get to be? So I get to be the person with the house manager. I get to be the person that has flexibility of time. I get to be the person that gets to have a full bank account so I can gift whenever I want to my friends, and be generous. So that being is that version of you, and that's what gets to be on the vision board. Yes, the being gets to be in these trips perhaps, or gets to be in this home, this car, but it really is about the self-image. And then the doing are the goals, the plan of action. And then the have, we get to leave that up to the divine. And what is sent is usually bigger and better than what we've even asked for.
Right. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. I love that. You're right. It is a frequency. I mean, we all put out a signal, and I always often say, what is your signal suggesting or asking for? So
Right.
love that. Thank you. That's really, really good information. Well, throughout all of your processes and all of the clients that you had, what has surprised you the most after guiding thousands of people through this Dare to Declare process? Is there one big surprise that you've come across?
One of the things that surprised me is when I've asked people, what do you want? And I imagine it's more money. I imagine it's more time. I imagine, yeah, time and money are usually two of the top ones, but I thought would be what people wanted. And they do. But when we get down even deeper, what people actually want is to be content. And
Mm,
that really surprised me, because I thought content was passive, and
mm,
content was something that was, like beige, like kind of boring. No, it's content is enoughness, it's
mhm,
fullness, it's peace, it's generosity, it's a way of being that you are completely comfortable in your own skin, in who you are. You are 100% worthy. And
mhm,
so content wraps up so much of that. And so that really surprised me
mm,
as I started getting into this work, that that's ultimately what most people are seeking, is to be content.
mm. That's fantastic. You're right. It is. It's wholeness. Wholeness. Just to be content with where you are, what you're doing, and who you are. Yeah. Because I guess when you look at a lot of society, especially the North American society, we are strivers, we are achievers, we are, go out and get the job, go out and get the accolades. I mean, that's just our society, and of course that then associates to income, because the more you climb up the ladder or whatever you might be doing, you make more money. So the doing creates the money. But what you're doing doesn't necessarily make you content or make you feel whole. In most cases, it doesn't. We get burnout, like what happened to you and many others who've been here, myself included,
Mhm. Mhm.
because we feel those obligations. But yeah, that is so powerful. Yeah, that is really, that's a light bulb. I haven't heard anyone say that, but it is. It's content, it's wholeness, like you said, enoughness. Yeah, that's
And it doesn't
wonderful.
mean that it stops action. It's not something
No.
that is it's alive. And it's also like Bob Proctor says, the goal is to be a little bit better every day. So,
Mm,
but being content where you are is also in a state of gratitude. So I also like to talk about Jack Canfield and his success principles. All begins with gratitude, and gratitude is wrapped up in being content as well. It's like
hmm.
it's another expression of that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Being grateful for being here or what you've accomplished, or like we said at the beginning, look at all the accomplishments you've done and had. And being grateful for that, because it was just like you said, it gave you goosebumps, and that you were grateful, but you hadn't realized that. So yeah, it just comes full circle. Well, here's a question that I think is very interesting. How can you attract clients using vision boards?
I love this question because I think most people haven't thought about it in that way.
Okay.
And yet, because it's often siloed separate from coaching, even though a lot of coaches, people that are in real estate, financial planning, they all talk about imagination and they think, well, vision boarding would be a good idea. But most of them think of it like a party trick or like a New Year's Eve kind of activity, something that you can just do with family and girlfriends. And you can. However, it's if it's done in a way that uses my framework and is very intentional, and there's not a wrong way to do it, but we have a better way, it works. It ties in, and it's life changing and transformational. So the way that you can use it to attract clients is if you think about your program or your offer. Like I like the work of Donald Miller. He talks about a house. So
Mhm.
Donald Miller is the story brand guy. And
Okay.
so if you think about your offer like a house, which has front steps, then it has a porch, and then it has a door. And so, like real estate, when you sell your house, they talk about curb appeal. Well, your offer needs to
Mhm.
have curb appeal. It needs, if your front steps are falling apart, your house might look okay. People are like, well, I don't know if I even want to go in there.
Mhm.
Like they don't even take care of their front house, their front porch. So if you've got a flower pot, say on your front steps, and it's painted, freshly painted, people are going to want to come in and see more. And then, so I've got a power word workshop, which is like a mini vision board. It's a word for your year, which is what my book was based around. And so it's a really beautiful introduction into vision boarding. And so that just kind of piques people's interest. And they're shocked how in 90 minutes their life can change simply by
Mm.
deciding that this is a word that I'm choosing for my year and I'm going to use it as my lens, as my self identity, as an I am statement. So when life gets tough, this is who I say that I am. So that can be like the front step. The front porch could be the vision board experience. It's like, and this is what happens with clients is like, what else have you got? Well, come and join and do this vision board experience. It's so much fun. You get to be with other visionaries, and we're going to support you to dream really big. But it's also really important because if you just jump to the doing, the
Mm.
strategy, the goal setting, you haven't got like a GPS, you haven't got your destination plugged in, you're going to be running around all over the place without knowing if you're getting results, if this is actually what you want. Maybe if you're running someone else's dreams, you're not even looking at what it is that you really want for your life. So it's so important to have that vision, to know what it is that you really want. So, but it's a really fun process. Uh, Oftentimes people come and they're like, I didn't know I was going to cry.
Oh.
I didn't know that this was going to go so deep. I thought I was just going to be having some glue and scissors and, have a fun time with friends. But wow, this has been so life changing. And then from there, people are like, what else have you got? Now I'm ready execute this vision. And so that's where coaches or mentors or consultants can pick the ball up from the vision board and say, okay, so now you need accountability. Let's chunk it down into a strategy, into a 90-day sprint, into a 6-month program, whatever the offer is, but always relating back to that vision board.
Well, yeah. Okay. So I get the fact that you've got your word that you choose for the year. So
Yeah,
that's your, like you say, the front steps. The porch is where you put together, is that the vision that you want?
the full vision board.
The
Yeah.
full bit vision board. And so that's to get you into the idea of what clients you want to attract or what your purpose is. Like we're talking about sales here, right? Attracting clients.
Mhm.
How
Mhm.
does that attract clients? How does that help
So
you attract clients?
yeah, so it's very well. For one, a vision board is a tangible tool. So if once you've done a workshop, you're going to have proof people are showing their vision boards. So it's certainly a way to say, look at how much fun my clients had. It's challenging as a coach to, unless you've got testimonials to show results in the work that you're doing. Whereas this is a
Mm,
very visible, you can see the fun energy, you can take video of the actual workshop itself just to demonstrate the work that and the transformation that you offer to your clients. So um, people are attracted to having a workshop, having something that they're having. It's not just simply being talked at, but it's also very immersive,
right.
and that they're going to walk away with something that's tangible. That's not just into the notebook graveyard where it's like, okay, another seminar, another workshop done, knowledge gone in, but how much did I actually retain? Where you're going home with a tangible physical vision board that you now can use and will change your life.
Right. Yeah. Well, because it's painting the picture for you, the future picture. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that putting that forward, taking it into the corporate setting. So, can you vision board in the corporate setting, which I believe you can, but how is that worked for you, or how do you walk people through that in the same way, or is there a little different?
So one of the things I always tell whoever the employer is, you want to be mindful of your overall culture. Like I do a little bit of an interview prior to find out, um, are they going through a major change? What's the overall temperature of the culture? So if there's been a lot of challenges or a lot of change, we just want to be aware of that, because it does require vulnerability. And also, I recommend that they may not want to have supervisors in the same
Mm,
experience as the employees, because the employees, their vision may not include the workplace long term. Like
mhm.
we know most people are switching jobs, 3 5 years. It's not like you're going to stay at the same company for 20 years. I mean, those days are past.
Yeah.
So but the employee may not feel comfortable to say, well, my big vision is to be an entrepreneur and I'm out of here, in 6 months or whatever. So but I also let the employer know you are the hero in the fact that you are offering such a progressive personal development opportunity. What I mean
Mhm.
by that is many employers, it's either a check mark in the wellness kind of like, okay, get her done. I got the wellness kind of workshop done, or it's done specifically for the company. Like they want to just do the vision and the goal setting for the company, but the way that we do it, it's like, no, you are seeing the employee so much more than the payroll number. You're
Mhm.
literally calling them by name to say, we care about you, not just you as an employee here, but we care so much about you that we're wanting to provide this experience where, yes, your vision is going to include your work, but also your personal life and your family life. And it's a holistic way to see you. But this is just for you. But the employer that's progressive realizes that when the employee feels seen and heard in a sense of belonging, they're going to perform so much better. And it's a
Mhm.
beautiful way for teams to build as well, because you may see your, your fellow colleague in one role at work, but then when you start to hear like that they have aspirations to write their own book, what? I
Mm.
never knew that. And so when there's stress at work or a challenge, being able to see the person through this other lens where you see them as a family person or you see them having these goals, it just gives you that empathy and that connection as a team. So it definitely deepens
Mm.
team relationships as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I could I could definitely see that for sure. And it's the new leadership. I mean, leadership is about providing the path for others to succeed and bloom. I mean, that's the new leadership. We have so many still stuck in the old leadership, which is, I said, is going to take a long time get to get over that. But the new leadership is really about providing services like this, or just saying, I want to see you grow as an individual as well. Personal development.
Right.
It's not just about the cog in the wheel, the bottom line, the revenue, because, let's face it, that's a lot of managers and CEOs. I mean, especially if they're a public company, that's their main goal. It's all about their performance is based on how well their employees are making money for the company. It's all about the money. But the new wave of leadership that's coming up, because there's such a turnover, young people don't keep their jobs anymore. They care more about themselves, in a sense that don't want to say that in a bad way. They are more aware of their well-being, if that's a better way to put it, in the sense that if they don't like a job, if they're feeling stressed, if they feel it's not what they want, they change their job. In my day, in your day, if I went for an interview and I had 5 jobs already and I was like in my late 20s, people would be like, well, there must be something wrong with you. Why have you
That's right.
changed jobs so many times? Today, it's practically the norm. It's like,
It is.
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But
So that's,
it's not one or the other though, right? So I don't want to say like this does impact the bottom line. It does,
yeah.
so I used to run a large organization. I had 75 employees, and one of the most costly aspects to our employment was turnover. So
Right.
it was the acquisition of new employees and then also people leaving. So to mitigate that and to have employees who also were very happy and like I said, had this sense of well-being, you're going to have less accidents, like physical accidents. Like there's studies that show with that too, and also not having conflict, like having to have like meetings between employees and having to deal with that, because when they have a level of self-awareness and they have the tools also on how to um, support those conversations, to have brave conversations. So this just becomes a part of that whole wellness and way that your culture is, which definitely impacts your bottom line. So I don't see it one or the other. They're both and.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with you absolutely in that
Yeah.
respect. Yes, it costs so much money to retrain individuals.
Mhm.
That's one of the biggest costs corporations have today. Well, thank you for that information. So there's a lot of individuals out there that do the vision board thing. So what makes your vision boards work, and how often should someone create one?
Well, I would say between 12 to 18 months. And I
Mhm.
heard someone the other day say, oh, yeah, so someone just realized that they need to renew their board or redo their board. I said, ooh, don't take it apart. Like once you've created
Oh,
it, leave it intact, date it, and because it will continue to mature and it will continue to come to fruition. And so, but create a new one because your vision will continue to evolve. So it's not like you're climbing a mountain and then you've reached the peak and you've hit your peak, so to speak, because there's going to be another mountain and a higher vision to achieve. And as we mature and age, our vision may shift as well. And what was important to us in our 30s is no longer important in our 50s and so forth. So 12 to 18 months is what I recommend. And what makes our board unique, I would say, is the intention behind it. So the
Mm.
intentional process, one of the main things is it takes 6 hours. So it takes 6 hours to create a full vision board within the Dare to Declare process. And I've had people resist that, especially with corporate. And, when I work with realtors, they're like, we're busy people. Can't we just do it in a couple of hours? But, this is one of the most important days of your year. It's like I said, it's like putting the address in your GPS. Like if you haven't got your vision, then you don't know where you're going with everything else. And it's also, I say, it's the new spa day. It's self-care.
Mm. Right.
You're not
Yeah.
focusing on anyone else but you. So can you take 6 hours out of your year to just focus in on yourself? And I know that people can because
Mm.
they go to the spa. And they'll go for the whole day. So, or they'll golf for a whole afternoon. So take this time out, set it aside, and create your vision board. So the intention, another tip I can offer, we have different kinds of protocols that make it work, but one of the distinguishing ones is space between the images. So I'm anti-collage in that we don't focus best when there's chaos and clutter, even within our homes,
Mhm.
within our offices, within our bedrooms. So, why in the world would you want to have the very tool that's supposed to support you with focus be cluttered with images that are overlapping and
Mhm.
competing with one another? So, having space, like white space around each image, is also key. That's just another one of our protocols.
Yes, I love that. Debbie and I spoke earlier, and I said, yeah, making the space is really it's good feng shui, as a feng shui instructor would say, because yes, you need your eyes to be able to rest, and the space creates that atmosphere that you said. It's not chaotic, because when it's too much, it's the same with your home. Feng shui is like, keep it simple. Clutter is chaos, and it makes it triggers different energies within not only your house but yourself as well. And the same with the vision board. So that's perfect. Well, what are some things to avoid then when you're creating a vision board? You just mentioned the anti-clutter. Is there anything else that you could provide for us here? Some tips?
So, you definitely want to put on your board what you want, not what you
Mm.
don't want. So, I had it where I actually had a celebrity, and she had posted her board online, and she had um, no COVID. This is during the pandemic.
Mm.
In big words, no COVID. I was like, oh no, she's got COVID on her vision board. And sure enough, 10 days later, she announced that she had COVID. And I was like, well,
Oh,
you
no.
called that in. So, you definitely want to put, like I said, on word, whether they be words or images. So it's not there to discipline you, but it's rather to incite joy. So we talked earlier about vibration. So when you look
Mhm.
at the images, you want them to incite joy and a sense of anticipation and to raise your vibration to the possibility and hope. So that would be one of the key things is that you have images that definitely do that for you.
I love that. That makes so much sense. And even though it said no, but she put the word COVID there, which brought
Yeah,
it in. So yeah, we'll talk when we speak about your book, because I'm like you. I think words carry energy. So
yeah.
they're very important. Not only, like you said, put it there, but your thoughts and also how you speak. So yeah, wow, that's a good lesson. Great story. Well, if someone here listening feels disconnected, Deb, from their purpose right now, what's the very first thing that they should begin paying attention to?
Hmm. I would say pay attention to your body. Notice,
Mm.
because your body is telling you what you're thinking about. It demonstrates. So if you feel like you're having stomach problems or you're feeling a tension in there, but also notice when you're feeling relaxed and when like where are you? Like who are you with? Um, what situation are you in? What are you eating? So notice also. I think a big part is what messages your body is giving you because our body is letting us know all the time. And
Right.
so that would be, I think, something that you definitely want to start paying attention to. Mhm.
Yeah, you're right. The body keeps score. And it
Yes.
certainly does. Yeah, and it's the signals. That's the signals. Your body is giving you signals all the time. Pay attention, good or bad. But absolutely, yeah, thank you for that. So here we are at your book. So tell us about your new book, Declare It, and how the subtitle is How to Turn Your Personal Power Back On. So let's dive into that.
Sure. And so I want to say, you said earlier about feng shui and about your home. And I was privileged to have Marie Diamond be one of the endorsers for my
Mm,
books. She was in the movie The Secret, and she wrote a book. She's a master on feng shui, and she wrote a book says your home is your vision board. And so it's just funny that you brought that up. And so, yes, so she endorsed my book. And, I also have Jack Canfield wrote the foreword, and I just feel so blessed with all these incredible thought leaders around this work that have influenced me, but also now that are part of my journey. So the book came from the workshop that I offer, which is the power word, which is a word for your year. And I had clients telling me their stories of how that simple practice transformed their life and their
mm,
stories. I was like, this feels like it needs to be a book that I need to spread this larger than what I can just simply do with my workshops and even my academy graduates who use the power word in their work. How can we get this out even bigger? And so and also I was influenced by Mel Robbins. So Mel Robbins, she's a podcaster, she's an author, and she wrote a book, Let Them, the Let Them
mhm.
Theory. And so I remember going on vacation 2 years ago or a year and a half ago and sitting on the airplane and seeing all these women with these green covered books. And I thought, wow. And as I had read it, I thought, the emphasis though is not on the let me. It's in there. So it's let
Mhm.
them, which is create space, but then let me be this. And I thought that's not getting the same kind of emphasis and understanding. And I thought that's what the power word is. It's the let me.
Mm,
So that when you're in crisis, when you have a challenge, whether it's simply being in traffic or health diagnosis, relationship issue, whatever it might be, you need to have that life preserver thrown to you, or you need to be able to grab it and just
right.
keep yourself above water. And that's what the power word allows you to do, is to help you self-regulate. And that's a term back from my years with children. And that's what we would help them do, that when they, instead of having a
Mm.
temper tantrum, we help them to self-regulate so that, but as adults, like Mel Robbins says, most of us are walking around with 8-year-old brains and not able to self-regulate. We're either fight, flight, or freeze. And so this word is your self-identity word that helps you then get into the higher functioning aspects of our brain to be able to make the next decision, the next step, that what it is that we desire, which leads us back to our vision, into the goal, and what it is that we want for our best life. So that is the power of the power word. One more equation I can give you. It's based on
Mhm.
the work of Jack Canfield. I'm a certified success principles trainer, and he has this equation, which is E plus R equals O. Now, E stands for the event, O stands for the outcome. And most people are walking around with only those two letters in their back pocket. This event happened, so this must be my outcome. And they don't realize that they have a choice, and they can make a decision, which is the R, which is our response, which is also our
Mm,
responsibility. And so the let them and then let me, this is where, when you have that word and you've decided on it already in the beginning of the year, whenever you decide to have that word, it's like first aid. It's like CPR. Like you just quickly can grab it, right? So that it's like you can remember, oh yeah, airway, breathing, circulation, or whatever my word is. So my word this year, I can show you my card, is diamond. I'm
mm,
a diamond.
nice.
So this is my self-identity. So I sparkle bright. I succeed under pressure. And so that is my identity, that when I'm challenged, I go back to that.
Mm, I love that. That's just like a switch.
Yes.
It's the switch that turns on your awareness that, oh, I'm going that way, I need to go this way. The switch that, oh, this is not, I'm not going back to those old ways or the old, thinking, way of thinking, et cetera, et cetera. You say your word and the light bulb goes on. And then, like you said, it takes you back to, your vision, where you're going, what you're doing. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, everyone needs a word. I mean, it's, or whatever it might be. Some people do a mantra or, an affirmation, which is a little
Yes.
longer. I love the one word because it's very powerful and it's easy,
Yes.
but yeah, it's the way, it's the neuroplasticity. That's how our brains, like you feel it, you become aware that it's going there. You do the switch, and then you're actually training those neurons to go the other way, to take
That's right.
the other road instead of keep going off on the fork. Keep going straight, or keep going straight, and it really does work. But you just have to use it all the time and be aware. So yeah, thank you for that. That's very powerful. So maybe you just answered this question, but if you have something else, let us know. If there was one message that you could share with the world, what would it be?
Well, my company's name is Dare to Declare. So dare is a risk. So we talked
Mm,
earlier about courage plus risk equals confidence. So I would say dare yourself to do something that is disrupting old habits. We talked about how 95% of our behavior is memorized and we're just walking on autopilot. So maybe it's just simply trying a different tea, or maybe it's, calling a friend that you haven't spoken to in a while. But I want you to dare yourself to just step out of the regular, mundane routine and do something for yourself, do something for someone else. And then those dares, if you do one a day, by the end of the week, you've got 5, and you may see a change, I would suspect, in your life in a very positive way.
mm. I love that idea. And I like that you say, it doesn't have to be something huge. It could be just trying a new food or a new drink or going somewhere you've never been before. Yeah, that's fantastic. Absolutely. It actually starts it. I see where it builds your confidence. Yeah, because
Yes,
you've dared yourself, and then you feel really good that you did it. Like
it's
that's
true.
the end result, is that, it's like, I did that, and I'm really proud of myself. So there's the confidence. Well, tell our audience, Debbie, how they best can connect with you and purchase your book.
Sure. So my website is my name, Debbi, Debbi, Sluys, Sluys, .com. And so all of my socials are there. You can book a call in with me if you want to continue this conversation, if there's something that's sparked for you. But my book is on Amazon and also Ingham Sparks. So you can check that out on Amazon, Amazon Canada, Amazon US, and it's Declare It, How to Turn Your Personal Power Back On.
Well, thank you so much. And because we're here on the Epic Vision Zone, I have one last question. If your life were an epic story, which I believe it is, what would the title be?
Oh, um, what's coming to mind right now is blessed, um,
Mm,
blessed beyond belief. Yeah.
mm, I love that. That's beautiful. Well, thank you again, Debbie, for reminding us that vision is not fantasy, it's direction. And it's the whisper inside of us asking us to dare to declare what we want. Once again, you can find all of Debbie's information and contact information on the Epic Vision Zone bio pages, where you will find everything to go deeper and discover your own evolution. If this conversation awakens something within you, share it, subscribe to the Epic Vision Zone, and step deeper into your own evolution. And be sure to follow me on Instagram at Jane Applegath. Look me up at janeapplegath.com and subscribe to the Epic Vision Zone for more inspiration. Sending you much love and gratitude. Until next time, stay visionary, lead with love, stay epic.